People stared when the racist CEO screamed across the park, "People like you don't get to hold my son." But moments earlier, Malia Carter, a black caregiver who never asked for praise, had carried the disabled millionaire's boy on her back just so he could feel the wind like other kids. One tiny laugh from him was enough to change everything, except for the woman who saw the worst, not the truth. What happens when kindness is mistaken for trespass? "Get your hands off my son. People like you don't get to touch him." The shout slices through the quiet Saturday morning at Riverside Park. Joggers slow down. Parents clutch their kids. In the middle of the walkway, a black woman with warm brown skin and a worn staff badge around her neck kneels with a small blonde boy on her back, his thin arms looped around her shoulders like he's finally part of the world again. This is Malia Carter, a caregiver who has spent her life helping other people's children move, while her own dreams never had room to stand. The boy on her back is Ethan Hale, the disabled son of New York's most feared CEO. And the furious woman marching toward them in designer heels? That's Victoria Hale, the millionaire who thinks money can control everything, especially who is allowed to hold her child. The moment Victoria locks eyes on Malia, the entire park holds its breath. Only an hour earlier, the park had been ordinary. Sunlight spilled over the grass, kids chased bubbles, dogs tugged at leashes. Malia sat on a bench, Ethan's wheelchair parked beside her, his thin legs strapped gently, head tilted down, staring at the same patch of concrete he always watched. "Hey, little man," she whispered. "Want to feel the wind today, not just watch it?" He didn't answer. He almost never did. 3 years of expensive treatments, private doctors, endless tests had given his mother a language of numbers and charts, but not one step, not one laugh. Malia checked the path, then loosened the straps. "We'll go slow," she promised. "I've done this with kids like you for years. You deserve more than this chair." Carefully, she crouched, sliding his weight onto her back, her hands steady, movements practiced. Ethan's fingers clutched at her shoulders, first in fear, then in something else, curiosity. As she stood and took a few careful steps, his breath hitched. When the breeze from the river touched his face, his fingers relaxed. Malia laughed softly. "There you go. That's the sound of the city, Ethan. That's you moving through it, not just watching." For the first time since she'd met him, a tiny sound escaped his lips, a broken little giggle, like a memory waking up. Malia froze, then took another step, then another. Ethan's body, once stiff as stone, began to sway with her, his cheek resting against her shoulder. To strangers passing by, it looked like a simple moment. To Malia, it was sacred. She had no idea that behind her, a phone camera had already started recording. Nor that the woman who signed her checks was striding out of the parking lot at that exact second. If this were you, watching from a distance, what would you do when you heard the first shout? "Put my son down." Victoria's voice slams into Malia's back before she can even turn. Conversations die mid-sentence. A dog yelps as its owner jerks the leash. Malia slowly lowers Ethan, her knees trembling, more from shock than from his weight. She barely has time to lock the wheelchair before Victoria is in her face. "I leave him with you for 2 hours and you decide to play hero?" Victoria snaps. "Do you have any idea how fragile his spine is? Or do you just want a photo for your little social justice feed?" Malia's cheeks burn. "Ma'am, I would never." "Don't ma'am me." Victoria's eyes flick to Malia's badge, then to her skin. "I hired you to push the chair, not to pretend you know more than his specialists. People from your background don't experiment on my son." Gasps ripple through the small crowd. A teenager lowers his phone, then hits record again. Ethan's fingers curl into trembling fists. His eyes dart between the two women, then down to his useless legs. Malia sees it, the shame, the way a child can learn in 1 second that other people think he's a burden. "I'm certified in pediatric mobility," Malia says quietly, forcing her voice not to crack. "I've helped kids like Ethan feel their bodies again." Today he laughed, "Ms. Hale. He hasn't done that in enough Victoria steps closer, her perfume sharp, expensive, suffocating. You're fired. Effective now. Security will collect your things. And if I see you near my building again, I'll have you removed. Do you understand? Ethan lets out a tiny sound, reaching one shaking hand toward Malia. Victoria gently but firmly pushes his arm back to the armrest. You don't get to reach for her, she murmurs. She crossed the line. Malia's heart cracks at that single, tiny gesture, more painful than any insult. She takes one step back, then another, swallowing her fury, because she cannot afford to be arrested in front of a millionaire's cameras. What no one notices, at least not yet, is the older man sitting a few yards away, cane by his knee, eyes narrowed, watching every second of the scene like a judge in a silent courtroom. Victoria. The voice is calm, worn with age, but it cuts through the tension like a bell. Victoria stiffens before she turns. Dad? The older man rises slowly, leaning on his cane. His tailored coat and quiet authority say more about real power than her sharp suit ever could. Most people at the company know him as Leonard Hale, the man whose name is on half their buildings. I just watched your little scene from beginning to end, he says evenly. And I watched that young woman carry our boy like he mattered, not like a broken investment. Victoria starts to speak, but he lifts a hand. 3 years of specialists and Ethan never laughed. For the first time, I heard him from across a park. And you try to fire the only person who made that happen because of the color of her skin and the weight of your fear. Whispers ripple through the onlookers. The teenager's phone is still recording, the red dot blinking like a warning light. Leonard turns to Malia. Ms. Carter, is it true you're certified in pediatric mobility? Yes, sir, she replies, steady now. And I would never put him at risk. I adjusted to his posture, supported his spine. It was controlled movement, not a stunt. Leonard nods once. Effective immediately, you report to me. You'll oversee Ethan's mobility program and review every therapy contract we sign. He faces his daughter, eyes suddenly cold. And you, Victoria, are suspended from all decisions involving people. You can manage numbers. Not lives. The board will see this recording before our next meeting. For the first time, Victoria has no words. Her mouth opens, closes, but nothing comes out. Ethan's gaze shifts from his grandfather to Malia, and slowly, with effort, he reaches both arms toward her. Mal, IA, he whispers. One broken syllable, but it lands like thunder. Malia kneels beside his chair, tears stinging her eyes. I'm right here, buddy. Around them, the park seems to exhale. Some people look away, ashamed of how long they stayed silent. Others keep quietly filming, knowing this moment will travel far beyond the trees and benches. Later, people will argue online about money, race, and power. But for now, it's just a boy who never walked, a black caregiver who refused to stop believing he could move, and a woman who finally learns that real strength isn't in owning the park, the company, or the city. It's in knowing when to hand the power to someone who actually knows how to lift another human being up.